The great hall of the Zeltharian High Council was silent, but the silence was heavy. Tall silver pillars reached toward the domed ceiling, glowing faintly with the light of 100 energy crystals. The air was cool and carried the faint scent of the sacred Arlen flowers, a scent that usually brought calm to the heart. But today, calm was nowhere to be found. Lord Varix, the supreme chancellor of the Zeltharians, sat on the throne of clarity, a seat carved from the crystal of a dead star. His posture was straight, his head high, and his violet eyes burned with a cold fire. In his hand, he held a small metallic scroll, the official communication from the Galactic Federation. He had already read it 3 times, but each time the words seemed even more insulting. Human envoys will be dispatched to assist your people in the current crisis. Varix's claws tightened around the scroll until the metal creaked. Humans, fragile, slow, primitive humans, were being sent to help his people. The Zeltharians were one of the oldest and most advanced races in the Orion Arm. They had built floating cities above the storms of gas giants, mined black holes for energy, and created ships that could cross the galaxy in a heartbeat. And yet, the Federation had decided that their salvation should come from Earth's primitive primates. The Chamber's council members shifted uneasily in their seats, their jeweled robes rustling softly. Varix's voice, deep and sharp like a blade, cut through the air. "How dare they?" he said, his words slow and heavy. No one answered. A few counselors avoided his gaze. Others glanced toward the doors, as if wishing to escape the tension in the room. High Counselor Teriel, an elder with silver skin and tired eyes, finally spoke. "My lord, the Federation's orders are binding," he said carefully. If we refuse, Varix interrupted, "we prove that we are not in control of our own destiny." Somewhere in the corner of the hall, a low hum from the communication altar signaled, and Kokukan. Incoming transmission. Varix ignored it for now. Instead, his mind was already racing through possibilities. The humans must have done something to impress the Federation. Perhaps they had new technology, or some strange tactic in war that the Federation found useful. But that made little sense. The humans were barely 3 centuries into space travel. What could they possibly have that the Zeltharians did not? He thought back to the stories he had heard. Humans were unpredictable, stubborn, and often reckless. They lacked discipline but had a strange ability to survive even in impossible conditions. Some claimed it was this very unpredictability that made them dangerous. But Varix was not convinced. Dangerous was not the same as worthy. A loud chime broke the tension. The transmission from the Galactic Federation's envoy activated, projecting a tall hologram into the center of the hall. It was a Dreven, one of the Federation's oldest members, with skin like molten bronze and eyes that glowed like embers. "Lord Varix," the Dreven said, his voice calm, "your assistance request has been approved, and the human team is already en route. Expected arrival in 48 hours, Varix stood, his long robe trailing across the crystal floor. "I did not request humans," he said coldly. "I requested a fleet from the Federation, or at least soldiers from the Zarek, the Valhyri, or the Korath." The Dreven's glowing eyes blinked slowly. "The Federation has deemed humans the most suitable for your situation," he replied. "They have a certain talent." Without another word, the hologram flickered out, leaving the council in the same tense silence. Some of the younger counselors exchanged nervous glances. If the Federation believed humans could solve a problem, the Zeltharians could not, then perhaps the problem was far greater than they realized. Varix turned away from them and walked toward the massive balcony overlooking the capital city of Zirin. Below, the city shimmered in the golden light of the twin suns, towers rising high into the clouds. It was a vision of perfection, a symbol of their greatness. And yet, in 2 days, a group of humans would walk these streets as saviors. The thought made his claws curl. He could already imagine them, awkward in their movements, wearing bulky armor, their blunt faces showing far too much emotion. They would stumble through formal greetings, misunderstand basic customs, and embarrass themselves at every turn. And still, the Federation would praise them. The very idea was unbearable, but deep inside, where Varix rarely allowed himself to look, there was a faint, unwelcome feeling. A small voice whispering that maybe, just maybe, the humans would surprise him. He hated that thought most of all, because if it were true, it meant the Zeltharians were not as superior as they believed. And that was a truth he was not ready to face. He turned back to the council, his expression as hard as the star crystal throne. "Prepare for their arrival," he said at last. His voice was steady, but inside, his pride burned like fire. In 48 hours, the insult would arrive, and he would see for himself just how primitive these humans really were. 48 hours later, the skies above Zirin were clear and bright. The twin suns shone over the shining towers, reflecting off the silver walkways and glass domes. Crowds filled the streets below, their scaled faces turned upward in curiosity. News of the humans' arrival had spread quickly, and even those who despised the idea could not resist the urge to see them. Lord Varix stood at the edge of the grand landing platform. Around him, elite guards in silver armor stood like statues, their energy spears gleaming in the sunlight. High Counselors Tariel Vashri and Mailer stood beside him, their faces carefully blank. No one spoke. The deep hum of an approaching ship grew louder, vibrating through the metal beneath their feet. And then it appeared, a small black vessel. Unlike any of the sleek, curved Zeltharian ships, it was angular, rough, and carried visible scorch marks along its hull. It did not glide smoothly through the air, but descended with a controlled aggression. Varix's lips curled in distaste. "This is the pride of the Federation," he muttered. The ship landed with a heavy thud, the air shimmering with heat from its engines. A ramp lowered with a hiss of steam. For a moment, no one moved. Then heavy footsteps echoed from inside. The first human emerged, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing dark battle-worn armor. His helmet was tucked under one arm, revealing a face with sharp eyes and a scar running across his cheek. His gaze swept the platform in a way that made even the Zeltharian guards shift slightly. Behind him came a woman, her dark hair tied back, her expression calm but watchful. Her armor was lighter, fitted with strange attachments that Zeltharians did not recognize. 2 more humans followed, each carrying gear that looked improvised and mismatched, nothing like the precision-crafted tools of Zeltharian design. Yet there was something about the way they moved. Each step was steady, their eyes always scanning. They looked like predators walking into unknown territory. The leader stepped forward, stopping a few paces from Varix. "Lord Varix," he said, his voice deep and firm. "Captain Elias Kane, Terran Defense Force." He did not bow. He did not use the elaborate greeting rituals of the Zeltharians. He simply stood there, unshaken by the alien grandeur surrounding him. Varix's claws twitched. "You are late," he said coldly. Kane's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "We got here as fast as we could," he replied. "And from what I hear, you need us more than we need you." Gasps rippled through the gathered counselors. No one spoke to the Supreme Chancellor that way, not even other leaders of powerful worlds. But Kane did not seem to care. The humans moved to unload their gear without waiting for permission. One of them set down a strange, cube-shaped device that began to hum softly, projecting a 3-dimensional map into the air. It was a tactical display of Zirin's outer defense network. Varix's eyes narrowed. "How do you have access to our defense schematics?" he demanded. King glanced at him. "You'd be surprised what humans can figure out when we need to," he said. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty passed through Varix's mind. These humans might look rough and primitive, but there was a sharpness to them, something dangerous and unpredictable. And for the first time, Varix wondered if the Federation had not made a mistake after all. The mission briefing room was quiet, except for the low hum of the holographic display. The glowing map showed the outer districts of Zirin, and the problem was obvious. 3 defense towers had gone silent, their power lines cut and strange. Energy readings flickered on the sensors. Zeltharian scouts sent to investigate had never returned. Lord Varric stood with his arms crossed, his sharp gaze fixed on Captain Kane. "This is no place for your kind," Varric said. "The intruders are highly advanced raiders, likely using cloaking tech beyond human understanding." Kane didn't flinch. "Then it's a good thing we're not here to understand it," he replied. "We're here to stop it." The other counselors exchanged glances. They expected Kane to ask for detailed schematics, troop numbers, or specialized weapons. Instead, the humans packed their own gear that looked crude compared to Zeltharian designs. One of Kane's soldiers, a lean woman named Reyes, strapped a long, battered rifle to her back. Another, Briggs, carried a strange backpack filled with metallic spheres. When the humans reached the outer district, the air was thick with a strange static charge. Shadows moved between the towers, but the Zeltharian sensors could not lock onto anything. The guards who had been stationed there were gone, their weapons scattered on the ground. Varric watched from the command center through the live drone feed. He expected the humans to stumble, to hesitate. Instead, Kane knelt, pressed a small device into the dirt, and smiled. "They're here," he said. A moment later, the static shimmered, and figures emerged from thin air, tall, insect-like raiders with glowing red eyes and armored limbs. The humans didn't wait for orders. Reyes fired the first shot, a single crack echoing through the air, and one of the raiders collapsed. Its armor pierced clean through. Briggs pulled a sphere from his pack, twisted the top, and rolled it across the ground. It exploded into a burst of white smoke that the Zeltharian sensors couldn't penetrate, but the humans moved through it like they could see everything. Varric's claws tapped against the armrest of his chair as he watched. Human weapons were not elegant, not clean, but they were effective. The raiders, used to fighting against predictable Zeltharian formations, seemed confused by the humans' chaotic movements. They flanked from impossible angles, used cover in ways the Zeltharians never considered. Within minutes, the fight was over, the raiders retreating into the shadows, their cloaking devices sparking and failing. Kane's voice came over the comms, calm and steady. 3 towers secured, enemy forces scattered, he reported. "We'll hold the perimeter until your people can get here." For a long moment, no one in the command center spoke. Then High Counselor Turiel leaned closer to Varric, his voice low. "My lord, they achieved in 10 minutes what our best teams could not do in 3 days." Varric didn't answer. His pride was wounded. But a small part of him, the part he hated to acknowledge, felt something else. Something dangerously close to respect. The victory at the outer towers had silenced many of Varric's critics. But instead of celebrating, Kane's team began digging deeper. They claimed the raid was only a distraction, a way to pull Zeltharian defenses away from something more important. Varric found them in the restricted archives beneath the Grand Hall. The humans had somehow convinced the guards to let them in. Kane stood over a table, studying ancient star maps projected into the air. Beside him, Reyes was scanning through encrypted Zeltharian security logs, as if she had been doing it her whole life. Briggs was dismantling a small alien device with steady hands. It was a motion detector from the Raiders' gear, and it was still active. "You were not given permission to be here," Varric said, his voice like cold iron. Kane looked up. "You're welcome," he replied casually. "We just found something you missed." With a wave of his hand, the star map shifted to show the underlayers of Zirin. Hidden far below the city streets was a vast network of old service tunnels that no Zeltharian had used for centuries. And at the center, directly beneath the hall of the High Council, a new energy reading pulsed like a heartbeat. "It's a breach," Kane said. "Something's been built down there, and it's not yours." Varric narrowed his eyes. "How could you possibly know this?" "Our scans have shown nothing." Reyes turned her screen toward him. "Because your scans are looking for Zeltharian tech," she said. Whoever's down there isn't using it. The room was quiet for a moment. Varix hated to admit it. But they might be right. If the raiders' real target was under the council hall, then the entire government of Azirene was sitting on top of a trap. Kane straightened, his voice calm but firm. "My people can go down there tonight," he said. "But you're not going to like what we find." Varix studied him. The human's confidence was not arrogance, it was certainty. And for the first time, Varix realized something dangerous. These humans did not fear the unknown, they hunted it. The entrance to the old service tunnels was sealed by layers of dust and rust. Even the air tasted stale, untouched by life for generations. Varix stood at the surface, watching the humans prepare. They carried no heavy energy weapons, no bright Seltharian armor. Instead, they wore dark, flexible suits that allowed them to move quickly. Their weapons were compact, their tools simple. Yet there was something in their eyes, sharp focus, like hunters before a kill. Kane led the way down the narrow shaft, his boots making almost no sound on the ancient metal rungs. Reyes followed, scanning constantly with a handheld sensor that flickered with strange readings. Briggs came last, carrying a backpack heavier than his own body weight. Inside were explosives, spare ammo, and a few devices that even Varix did not recognize. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The tunnel walls were wet with condensation, and the shadows seemed to move in the corners of their vision. Somewhere far below, a slow, rhythmic sound echoed, a deep, mechanical thump like the heartbeat of a sleeping beast. They reached a chamber where the walls were lined with strange black crystals. The Zeltharians had never mined this deep, but the humans moved as if they knew exactly what they were looking at. Kane brushed his hand over one of the crystals, his brow furrowing. "This isn't natural," he said. "It's growing along the power conduits." Reyes checked her sensor again. "Energy signatures getting stronger," she whispered. "Something's pulling power from the city above." Suddenly, a faint clicking noise came from the shadows ahead. Figures emerged, not the insect raiders from before, but smaller, faster drones. They crawled across the walls and ceiling like metal spiders, their red eyes glowing in the darkness. Without hesitation, Kane opened fire. Each shot echoed in the confined space, sparks and shards of metal raining down. Briggs pulled a small disc from his belt and slapped it against the tunnel wall. It released a high-pitched pulse that made the drones shudder and drop to the floor. But more were coming, their clicking growing louder. "Fall back to the junction," Kane ordered, his voice calm but sharp. As they regrouped in a wider section of the tunnel, the thumping sound grew louder and the ground began to vibrate. The black crystals pulsed with light, their glow syncing with the strange heartbeat. Reyes's eyes widened. "It's not just a power siphon," she said. "It's a transmitter." Varix's voice crackled over the coms from the surface. "What are they transmitting?" he demanded. Kane's answer was grim. "A signal," he said, "and when it's finished, you won't be fighting raiders anymore." Asterisk. The black crystals glowed brighter, their light pulsing faster with each heartbeat of the machine below. The walls seemed to hum with a strange vibration, a low, bone-deep resonance that made every breath feel heavier. Kane pressed his cum, his voice tight. "Varix, you need to evacuate the hall, now." Above ground, Varix stood on the balcony, overlooking Zyron's capital. From here, the city still looked peaceful, its shining towers untouched, but in the distance, the sky flickered, thin, jagged cracks of violet light tearing through the air. "What is happening?" he demanded. Reyes's voice came back over the channel. "They're not calling reinforcements," she said. "They're waking something up." Deep in the tunnels, the humans pushed forward, the air growing hotter and the sound growing deafening. They burst into a massive underground chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. At the center was a colossal structure, half machine, half living organism, its surface covered in the same black crystal. It pulsed with energy, every beat sending a wave of force through the floor. Briggs dropped to one knee, yanking components from his pack. "This thing's a hive core," he said quickly. If it finishes its cycle, it'll tear open a wormhole right in the middle of your city. Before Kane could reply, the drones returned, pouring from cracks in the walls like a living tide. Their movements were faster now, almost frenzied, as if the hive core itself was driving them into a frenzy. Kane fired in short, controlled bursts. Reyes covered the flanks, and Briggs wired explosives directly into the crystal growths. On the surface, the first wormhole began to open above the city. Varix watched in horror as the air twisted and shapes moved on the other side. Towering, armored figures, their silhouettes jagged and alien. The civilians below screamed and scattered, guards raising their weapons. For the first time in his life, Varix felt the cold, creeping certainty that his city might fall. "Kane," he shouted. "Over the comes, whatever you're doing, do it faster. We're already ahead of you." Kane replied, "Just be ready for the shockwave." The hive core's pulse was so strong now that every breath felt like inhaling fire. The black crystals along the walls cracked and split, releasing bursts of strange violet gas. The drones shrieked in a metallic chorus, swarming toward Kane's team from every direction. Briggs slammed the last charge into the base of the core, his hands moving so fast they blurred. "This will blow the core and collapse the chamber," he said. "But once I set the timer, there's no stopping it." "How long?" Kane asked. Briggs gave a grim smile. 40 seconds. Reyes switched her rifle to full auto, holding the swarm at bay. Kane pulled a flare from his belt and ignited it, tossing it toward the ceiling. The bright red light was a signal to the surface above ground. Varix saw the flash through a crack in the plaza floor and realized what it meant. They were going to destroy the core, and themselves with it. "No," Varix growled. "Get them out." But Kane's voice came back, steady and without fear. "Not enough time," he said. "If we leave now, your city falls." The drones pushed closer, claws scraping against armor, sparks flying in the dark. Briggs shouted, "Timer set." Kane grabbed his cum one last time. "Varix, when this is over, remember this. Primitive doesn't mean powerless." The humans fought their way back toward the shaft, but the swarm was too thick. Reyes went down first, holding her ground, until the last moment before being buried in a wave of metal. Briggs detonated a smaller charge to clear a path for Kane, but the blast knocked him off his feet and into the dark. Kane kept moving, limping now, blood running down his armor. On the surface, Varix felt the ground shake. A deafening roar filled the air as the core exploded. A blinding column of violet light shot upward, tearing through the plaza and into the sky. The wormhole above the city shuddered and collapsed, the alien silhouettes vanishing into nothing when the dust settled. The tunnels were gone, buried under tons of stone and crystal. There was no sign of Kane's team. Varix stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. Around him, the city's people cheered their survival. But the Chancellor did not cheer. Instead, he spoke softly, almost to himself. "They saved us. And I called them primitive." Far above the city, among the drifting debris of the wormhole, a small black vessel floated silently. Inside, a single beacon light blinked. The humans might be gone, or they might be coming back.